10 seconds remaining. 5 seconds remaining. Dire team ban. Radiant team ban. Dire team pick.
Because of those kind of unorthodox bans, we have heroes like Nature's Prophet. There you go. Still in the pool, you know, Venomancer still in. Seeing a lot of Spearbreaker openings up against Nature's Prophet. And of course that Lich, I like Lich Spearbreaker quite a bit here actually for Mousesports. Damn. I mean, you know, predicting early picks isn't really that hard. It's really like the 4th and 5th when things start getting impressive, but opting for the Venomancer along with that Lich, Mousesports have been doing this, the Venomancer mid quite a bit as of late. Although for sure you could send the Venomancer anywhere and he should be at least fine most of the time. This is definitely going to be a lane control game for Mousesports. The concern right off the bat that I have though, Mousesports, don't forget stuns. Pick up stuns. I'm not rooting for them. I don't know.
Dire team ban. Radiant Dire team ban. Radiant team pick. Dire team pick.
Spirit Breaker.
Radiant team pick. 10 seconds remaining. 5 seconds remaining.
Kinguin with the Rubik pick now have a pretty good answer to the Spirit Breaker.
Dire team pick.
It will actually set up for maybe a little kill power here. Mousesports though get the classic combo Spirit Breaker along with that Dark Seer Ion Shell with charge. Oof, that packs a serious punch. It may still be Mousesports that they run into a situation where they are with a lack of disables though.
10 seconds
Spirit Breaker
remaining.
has a lot more stuns than they had in the last game, but still these are really clunky,
5
easy to see
seconds
coming.
remaining.
Up until the point where he gets the Shadow Blade, and that's usually not till like 30 minutes in the game or something along those lines. So the Kinguin to still be looking for their core one-position hero. If it is going to be another Weaver, I mean, we'll have a much tougher laning phase, that's for sure. But still, I feel like an elusive hero like that from the Kinguin side, or an anti-mage or something along those lines, can just run circles around Mousesports. Again, they have a severe lack of disable and lack of...
Dire team pick. Ten seconds remaining. 5 seconds remaining. Radiant team pick.
Clinks.
Choose your hero.
Me too, man. I was gonna say, like, does Madara play an Ember Spirit? Because that could be pretty sick with what they had going, but clearly that ship has sailed. The Sven was banned out. Crucially, a core with a disable and CK the exact same. The Mousesports now have at least some disables, not that they need a ton to deal with these Kinguin heroes, but for sure, you look at Kinguin's draft, Viper is single target, Clinks is single target, Witch Doctor, Rubik, they have like a little bit of AoE, I guess. A Cask's certainly going to be annoying for the CK, but put an Ion Shell on CK, and with his movement speed, you'll not escape him, especially when he has a Venomancer on his side. The fact that he has really no AoE answers to deal with on the Kinguin side is going to mean that Madara is going to be, with his illusions, just running rampant. The concern, of course, is that you're going to be pushed. Viper, Clinks, Nature's Prophet, these all are just lane-dominant heroes, so maybe you don't get quite as much farm as you would really like as that CK, but when the fights actually start out, CK can put a Nature's Prophet or Clinks in the ground extremely.
By the virtue of the hero he played, which is the version. Now he's going to do more M&T type things with the Spirit Breaker allow map. They have a decent matchup in the mid, and they have a great facilitator for that with the Darkseer. So despite, Kinguin picking Prophet, the Viper, traditional lane, I think Mousesports have answers game, and then later into the game, as you mentioned.
This is a pretty standard sentry Kinguin side. I don't believe they saw the Spirit Breaker. They may have, they may not have, but most of the time you could assume someone's going to come up here and place an observer in this area. But the observer that the Mousesports side decided to place is a little bit further up. Vision-wise, this is not really the best spot to place your observer ward, but it does seem like they are going to set up for a little bit of an aggressive play with this, because this does see when or if the Kinguin side ever pull. And just get a short glimpse of that hero, Spirit Breaker, with the Ion Shell versus a Rubik versus a Witch Doctor. You may not get the kill every time, but for sure every single time you'll force out some sort of answer, whether that's Cask or Telekinesis, maybe even both those Ion Shells off of those heroes. So this is going to be a very aggressive looking lane, top lane, for the Mousesports side. And even if the Spirit Breaker is going to roam out, I don't really know if the Darkseer has that much to fear here. Like, the chip damage from the Clinks, yes, is dangerous, but actually killing off a hero as tanky as Darkseer with these low damage supports in the Rubik and the Witch Doctor, I'm not really sure if that's entirely feasible unless they get a lot of softening beforehand, or maybe with the rotation of Patos it's possible. But Garlic should have a really clean time on this top lane, I feel.
It's extremely hard. Well, they're going to need some fortune with the cast bounce, but it's hard for them to general trade with a Spirit Breaker Darkseer. So, Exotic Deer, he's going to be mostly focused on farming, and if they garner enough of his attention to take him away from getting good CS, even if they, feed a kill or two, I think that's mission accomplished. So, Darkseer Spirit Breaker combo, generally speaking, Witch Doctor is one of the better trading supports early on. Great base damage. Cass kind of allows him to trade effectively as well as the Maledict, but against a Spirit Breaker Darkseer, you're do that, and against the Spirit Breaker Darkseer, you almost have to stay in your lane. So by default, Mouse gonna win the bottom lane or the mid lane, wherever the Lich opts to go. And in the other lane, they're gonna more than likely garner the supports for the entire early. Could be a true 1v1 elsewhere for the Veno with the range creep.
World are we in where
The battle
mid is
begins.
like not too weird? I hate this.
Help.
Like,
Ice
I'm
Frog,
a big fan
help.
of both of these heroes, like, sure, whatever, but it just feels wrong, man. They're just gonna be like right-clicking each other, and I guess the Viper some sort of advantage there because his poison attack does a decent amount of damage, but is going to protect him from aggro, and that's really the advantage that the Viper has in this lane, although he will have a disadvantage in the fact that his range creep did get eaten by the Lich, which is pretty much standard. Bottom lane, though, Madara, he is going to lose his creep wave as the Treants do drag it away, but he's a CK. He's one of the tanky heroes in the game. For his top lane, though, they're already looking to set up.
Trying to trade here early. M&T does cop a Searing Arrow. He gets Telekinesis back as well. Cask already used by LSH, so Fine. Back off. Has a salve as well. Oh, Ion Shell up on him just yet, though. Yeah, just kind of core for the par for the expected out of the top lane. Clinks right now just sitting on, yeah, so already we're kind of effects of this pressure that's applicable here. Maybe they need to wait until they can soak a level 2 trading you effectively, but for now they're at least pulling exotic deer off.
He now leveling up the charge. Now decides to use it. I feel like if he did that a couple seconds ago, they could have gotten a lot more damage
TP in
done.
from the Prophet. Couple of right clicks is going to be enough. They get MNT. Perhaps Mouz slightly overlooking that potential for the Prophet to TP. Already level 2. Well, so a nice little start for Kinguin, but it'll just mean basically a trip back to the well for the Spearbreaker. And
odd to see him make that play that late. Like, he knows that he can't really get Darkseer support, so he decides to go for it anyway instead of going for it a little bit further up when he actually had the Darkseer next to him. So, yeah, you are not going to expect an H Prophet to leave the lane that early on. Patos is not going to challenge Madara at all in this bottom lane. You don't want to risk yourself versus CK. The damage is a little bit too high there. But, yeah, still going to be a clean first blood for the Kinguin top lane. And actually now we have off lane Spirit Breaker. Skylark, who's not going to touch that lane anymore, doesn't want to deal with that Klink's harassment, is going to leave to the jungle. Level 2 with the Poor Man Shield, jungling speed for Darkseer. Not really all that impressive until he gets either a higher level or some sort of mana regeneration item for the Ion Shell.
Poking level 2 on the low ground is MNT on the Spirit Breaker. Maybe they'll be able to get a little bit more Spartan TP. Skylark, you see, back to lane now, but I think cause for concern here in this mid lane. Thug is getting, put it lightly, dominated DS, especially considering, you know, he's had this range be denied here. Nisha 14 with 11 denies up against the Venomancer. Bit of a cause for concern here.
Top lane, another charge, another ton of right clicks. They're so scared about actually going in because of that paralyzing cast from this Witch Doctor. If you decide to commit with 2 melee heroes with Ion Shell, as much damage as it will do, you are pretty much guaranteeing that you will both be chain stunned for the duration of that cast. Now, it's only a level 1 spell right now, so it's not really super dangerous, but still, it's guaranteed to land. But as you said, over in mid lane, Nisha is having the time of his life, and that's just another Toxin advantage. I'm not really sure how much of an advantage he got from the fact that he can freely hit the Venomancer without drawing aggro, but another Toxin is pretty good at CSing. Poison Sting is much better at killing off enemy heroes because of that slow. Another Toxin doesn't give you that, but base damage wise, there's just no comparison here. The Viper has it in spades, and this is even with a lane where the range creep got sacrificed at least twice now. It wasn't really looking super close at the Lich.
Again, from the Prophet top as well. Skylark gonna get sprouted up. They have the lift, this Darkseer. Pretty much left for dead. He gets out into the fog, though. Maledic is there, however. And
Top tower is under attack.
pick board.
They're not having quite as clean a time as I really expected. MNT not really able to help out there, and even if you charge in towards the mid lane, charging into a Viper, who at this point does have level 5, so Mousesports can assume at least 1 point in corrosive, make going for that kill with the melee hero difficult. Now Thug, that's an easy kill, it should be. With 4 heroes, this gank squad of Kinguin is so unexpected. Like, Nature's Prophet's not supposed to walk in and gank you. That just doesn't happen.
They've played incredibly, like, taking advantage of, you know, kind of statue form of the Lich. I mean, he is just the definition of immobile. And lane changes. They'll try and find an opening here top with supports walking in mid, but they're actually going to Kalpa Cask onto Skylark. They don't have the lift range just yet, but they get the second bounce. Now they'll pull him back, and Skylark going to drop for the second time in about as many minutes. MNT going to TP out. He will be. But we talked about the lanes for Mousesports. They kind of were geared to win them, and they're getting dominated thus far. 4-0 for Kinguin. Very strong in the early, and the Nature's Prophet factor, perhaps the one that we overdraft. He has magnificent thus far, along with the port duo of Kinguin. 0-0-3 profit, 4 kills to.
There's also the fact that this top lane started things off being very reserved and really being unsure as to whether or not they should be charging in. Should you get Greater Bash and just look for a couple of cheesy kills or cheesy hits on these supports? And ultimately, they decided on doing nothing. So the Iron Shell power at level 1, not really extremely high, but certainly not going to do all that much. And now Spartan, he's dead. I think just to the Viper, he was dead.
Viper Strike be there. They're going to rotate in as well. They'll get some damage done on this tower. And something I want to flag here is this a little unorthodox from Thug. He goes 3-2-0-1 on the Venomancer, which is going to extremely hamper his farming capability in the jungle. Usually we see the 2-2-0 build and then max Plague Wards for the ability to come back and farm in the jungle. 2-2 gives you more than enough as far as kill potential goes, but he goes for the 3rd point in Gale here and then skills up the Poison Nova, which means Mouse are going to look to fight, I suppose, because his jungling is going to... Could have had potentially 2 Plague Wards at this 0.
Are they going to look for a fight, though? Because the hero that wants to fight usually is going to be CK. He is not going for Armlet first. Power Tread's a pretty standard CK build. He's going to go for a Midas, which is, at this point in the game, I would say, you know, decent. It's not exactly an item that you would love to have on CK if you're playing the game that you want to be playing, but given this scenario, he knows that his allies are really behind in farm. He has to be the heavy, and CK just naturally doesn't farm all that quickly either, so I don't mind this selection from Madara too much, but it is going to mean that they will lose maybe next time towards top lane, and maybe even Skylark. You can farm all day, but eventually the fight is going to come to you.
Quelling Blade, please. Mousesports. Skylark going to drop. That's a couple kills in the top lane. Now Madara in trouble. This is the only silver lining thus far in the early game for Mouse. Try and juke them out in the tree. Gets the salve cancelled. Now does have the charge through from MNT, but Madara, no Phantasm yet. Not going to look to turn fight. But maybe Mouse does as a full unit. This would be a huge set of kills for them to be able to attain here. Katsor does end up getting the kill on MNT, but now they will turn for the Rubik. They'll get him for free. Can they get Nisha is really the key here. The surge forward was going to be onto Thug, but it did look like he wasn't expecting. He does connect with the Gale, though. Phantasm is there now. Charge coming from base, not really needed. They will connect on the Poison Nova on 2. Is this Kinguin overcommitting with their heroes? Clinks coming through, but doesn't have all that much mana. Thug, he's now going to be sprouted up. Fade Bolt is there. He's going to drop the Fairy Fire. Gets lifted, though. Back into a few right clicks and will be killed off. So they trade Thug when all is said and done, but they save Madara and they get the Viper and the Rubik. They lost their Spirit Breaker. Ends up being a 2 for 2, considering that they're behind. Feels like Mouse is going to be pretty happy with that. The metrics actually slightly favor Kinguin just by having more heroes present. He gets lifted.
Rune. Didn't even get it. He has a haste, though, which I didn't realize, and he's going to taunt his way out of there, so he'll be fine. Looks like Exotic Deer stalking this bottom lane should also not get much. But that was just an unfortunate sequencing there for Mousesports. You can see at the very end, once you land the Nova onto that many heroes, once you are fully engaged in that fight, a single stun means a kill on any of those heroes. But the first hero to die there was that Spirit Breaker. Even though he has such a low level, he's going to respawn really quickly. He's also going to charge in really slowly. Oh, Thug.
Max Gale for Thug, level 4 at this point. He's going to get medallioned up and right click to death.
Such an easy kill. Observer Ward really deeply placed here by the Dire, and now with Clinks packing that 4-point Searing Arrows, it's time to push in towards the tier 2 mid, which is already really damaged. Wow. Okay, well, easy towers.
10 minutes in.
Another Blightstone on the Clinks, going for that Desolator. Pretty standard fare, but for Mousesports, now's about the time where you wish your CK had an armlet, because again, eventually you have to fight, and that time is about now.
Nice denial from the Spirit Breaker. I meant bit of gold, but now Thug in trouble. He's gonna get Viper struck up. They get the surge off, however. He gets back into the fight, but he just gets bursted. No ultimate. Maybe he wasn't mindful of his cooldown there, walking back in. Thought he might have had the Poison Nova, but he just ends up dying for it. Spartan bottom lane is able to kill off the Witch Doctor, uses his ultimate to do so. Peytos trying to kill off the Lich, probably won't be successful without a Wrath of Nature. It doesn't have that 420. seconds. But overall, across the map, Kinguin still more than happy with the trades they're finding, especially considering tier 2 mid is now eliminated. There's still a tier 1 standing and 80% plus HP in the bottom lanes. Doing pretty well in this early game. Look at the net worth overall, and they are dominating.
Fortunately for Nature's Prophet, Courier is busy, as phase boots and bracer, that's a lot of value in his stash, currently doing nothing. Could have otherwise killed off the Lich there if he had additional bump of damage from that additional boot upgrade, but you know, it's a Lich. It doesn't seem like that Lich advantage is really doing all that much.
Just dropped the sentry down, but Exotic Deer barely walking out of it. Now the Prophet
Sprout
rotating through, Thug in trouble. The Medallion is just doing so much work. And he hits the Poison Nova on 2, but where's the follow-up just yet? They will, over on the west side, be able to take out the Rubik. Cask only going to bounce through 2 times. Skylark taking some damage there with the Viper Strike. More than likely will end up falling. And actually, he's going to... One more tick of the Corrosive Skin. No, makes it away. Meanwhile, Madara getting to work. Finishes off the Prophet. El Lissash is going to die. Triple kill. This is the one trump card that Mouz had. We talked about it late in the draft, the CK pick. No answers for it. And even with the Midas, picks up a triple kill there. Now he's only a couple hundred gold short of this armlet. At 12 minutes in, that's not a bad timing at all. This may be the way back into the game for Mouz as Madara assumes top spot on the network.
There's a big survival there from Mouz. Madara needs to be getting these kills. He needs to be the heavy because Thug sure as hell is not going to be doing it. I'm assuming this Glove of Haste on this Venomancer is going to be built up towards a Midas, but as you mentioned, this build on the Venomancer, tailored for fighting, he's not really getting much fighting done because he's just dying so damn quickly. Like, maybe a Gale comes out, but for sure not enough to really stack up that poison and wait for it to take effect. So Thug with only 1 point in this Plague Ward is going to be rather underwhelming. Venomancer jungle can be so fast, but even if he was maxed out in Plague Wards right now, and even if he could start farming for real, can you really jungle when there's a Clinks and a Nature's Prophet who are this big? Like, is that actually a possibility for Thug to remain safe? I don't really know if that's feasible at this point in the game, so Venomancer needs to survive a fight, or just get all the kills after having died, or something along those lines. He just needs some infusion of gold to get this Midas to get back into this game, and to actually be able to help out this CK, because CK, as powerful as he is, can't do everything when all his allies die as quickly as they have to.
Still with an odds. But, as you mentioned, maybe with the Clink blocking his top.
Courier.
Well, and that's the smoke reveal for Kinguin. We'll shove in mid lane, though, and that's inevitably going to force some sort of reaction. While top lane, I'm trying desperately to find a little bit of farm. The Cast not going to be there in time. He is going to make it out.
Cast is actually following him. This is a big deal, though, on the bottom lane. Skylark not able to take down that tower. Darkseer does not push structures all that well. He just kills the creeps. Madara.
Now Phantasm jump forward. He's going to find Paytos. They have the charge coming through as well. They don't even need it. Madara absolutely going to shred the Prophet. Kinguin forced to back as a unit. They steal the Surge from Katsor and make it back. Safety, but again, Madara flexing his muscle here on the CK, though that is 2 minutes without the Phantasm available. Still, they have the Poison Nova, so we'll see if that's enough to dissuade Kinguin from pressing forward. But I have to say the Radiant have done an excellent job of keeping vision up despite missing all these towers early on.
I haven't moused over Phantasm in a while, but there's Phantasm deals 100%/100%/100% damage. Thank you for that, game. Thank you for clarifying how much damage it actually deals. But man, he does a lot of damage versus someone like a Nature's Prophet who just doesn't have much game once he gets tagged by either Reality Rift or Castball, let alone both of them. The hero is going to build up pretty standard stuff, phase, drums, but this Nature's Prophet build and in general playstyle is such that you need to be on the periphery of the fight, firing in. If you're ever in the middle, you're in a bad spot. And speaking of bad spots, Katsor is going to feel the wrath, finally, of this combo.
Yeah, meanwhile, bottom lane, oh, they find out Madara in the trees as they spawn the tree. Ice Armor is already set up on the tower. Skylark going to keep bottom lane, and that is going to stymie pressure from Win, at least for the time being. Meanwhile, creeps with a siege creep hitting in top lane. That should do a pretty decent chunk of damage to this tier 1 for absolutely free. Nisha will now look to a top lane. It feels like this early game phase has been, you know, outlasted here by Mouz. They're definitely back in this game. Odd to see. One thing I want to flag as well, the medallion's queued up right now. No components of it bought yet, but queued up for the profit while the Clinks already has one.
I mean, there's a lot of physical damage on the Kinguin side, and medallion is one of those items that you can afford to get multiples of and just put them on different things. No overlap there, and you're gonna be good to go. And even if he doesn't put it on someone, even if it doesn't apply that Valor effect, you're still gonna have additional armor versus CK. I don't know if it's gonna mean the difference between him living or dying, but for sure it's going to help his cause. The concern though is, yeah, I mean, this early game kind of dominant phase for Kinguin has lightly slowed down. They still have the items, they still have this net worth lead, and specifically for this Rubik, who is pretty much at his Blink Dagger, it's going to make Mouz's life a lot more difficult, who just now pick up that Venomancer Midas, which is again an absolute necessity, but Kinguin can get right back on the horse and actually now have a decent response to that CK and his initiation on someone like Patos. Catcher will be there immediately with a telekinesis. Not the best tool in the world, but it's one of the better tools they have, and of course we'll have freer access to spells to steal. So this Rubik's going to be pretty swole, and well, now they have the double life as well. Roshan does not last long here. And now for Mousesports, the real challenge is going to come. They have 3 points vacuum, but no points wall. Darkseer needs a little bit more experience, and then Mousesports can actually put together a decent fight once they have that Darkseer combo.
So Dragonlance Aquila treads. Very stats heavy build. More and more difficult to fight. Abundance of it. 2 lives now for him. Still though, I feel that if Mouz are able to focus this, to agree that they can, or at least are on a warding mission, but Dara in front smells like they want to fight. They are near the shrine, which is inactive at the moment. Found. Not gonna find anything yet. To the hero.
Skylark, he can't be on the southern end of this if they do come up. They absolutely need the Darkseer to land that vacuum. It will be a head-on collision. They do take a tower, so for Mousesports, they have to concern themselves with retreating, and MNT is leaving.
Yeah, he has the Nether Strike available, not going to use it. Viper Strike, though, catches out Thug. He gets off the Poison Nova, just really connects onto 1, which is the Witch Doctor, who already goes down. Nice vacuum wall onto 2 by Skylark, but Madara, he's kind of left out in no man's land. Kills off Exotic Deer in time, and will also get Patos. The armlet toggles lovely from Madara. He's still surviving. Reality Rift brings him in for a mega kill. That's going to be Catsoar down on the back end, and they simply ignore the Aegis carrier in Nisha. Nice vacuum back to keep from right-clicking from Skylark, and a beautiful armlet toggle from Madara, and it's exactly the fight that Mouz wanted. This CK ends up being the perfect pick in the 5th slot for Mouz.
Getting that extra Phantasm roll as well, making it the world of difference there. That was even with Venomancer getting it nailed to the floor first thing. Got his Nova off on, I think, 0 or maybe just 1 heroes.
I don't even think he hit the Witch Doctor, honestly.
Yeah, so Venomancer just not a factor still in these fights. The CK is just such a menace, and for Kinguin, they won't really have many forms of AoE that can be built up. Like, the Viper can go for a Maelstrom into a Mjolnir. The Clinks never really will. I don't think I've ever seen a Clinks go for that type of build. They need to make sure that initiation is going to land on that CK. And even when they do, there's going to be help. There's going to be Ice Armor. He is just a very tanky hero inherently. Plus, he's going to go for a freaking heart, which is, of course, going to help out. So this CK, though he may be very powerful right now and doing exactly what the team needs him to do, eventually someone else is going to have to start doing some pretty serious damage as well. And I'm not really sure who that can be right now. Is it going to be Skylark? Is it going to be a Darkseer carry with a Force Staff vacuum wall? It doesn't seem entirely reliable up against all these ranged heroes.
Darkseer wall illusions are decent in this, but you don't get the benefit of the orb attacks from both Viper and in that respect. not amazing. However, I mean, we do have the level 2 ultimate on Thug. Venomancer is a hero that can do a lot just with his spells and levels, despite being behind in this game. Definitely merits to picking up the Midas here. If he gets to that level 3 ultimate, can do, I think, enough for his squad. Dara also doing... Has the heart queued up. You know, I prefer, you know, an Assault Cuirass or something a little... versus Kinguin side, but heart always a...
Illusions a lot fatter, make them do a lot more damage. Together with the armlet, you can just keep that on and just not worry about that in those fights or when you're wandering around the map. So yeah, again, if you're going to be like the only hero who's going to be doing damage, you got to make sure you don't get bursted, caught out and alone and taken down. Heart is going to ensure that. You know, something else that's usually picked up at this stage, usually like a BKB. Not really all that great up against Kinguin, so definitely understandable not going for that item. Madara just needs to keep on farming. Just needs to keep on farming, and his allies need to start farming up as well. Thug at the hand of Midas, but it's kind of hard to push out the wave when there's a Venomancer on the other team as well. Cats are level 3 Plague Wards up against level 4, so slight disadvantage there, I suppose, but it is very difficult to push into Plague Wards, and this creep wave is probably going to realize that pretty quickly. This is actually a lot of gold for Rubik. These Plague Wards
they catch a glimpse of the Prophet.
Really, and there's no one actually rotating in on him yet.
Yeah, they queued up the charge, but did not end up completing it. Exotic Deer picks up an Arcane Rune. I just used his Death Pact though, so us looking for the Clinks. Caught a glimpse of grabbing the rune. Be able to get him. Nice vacuum back though. Finds Spectals and the creep helping out here with the treants nearby. The Centaur War Stomp. Sealing the Prophet's fate. And the jungle betraying its Prophet there. Katsor trying to make his back to base. Won't catch a glimpse of a little bit of a series of unfortunate events for the KGN.
I don't know if these guys like each other or not. Like, I still have no idea, because there was some bad blood earlier, but I enjoy the all chat, that's for sure. Quite nice. Pata's certainly having some issues, as he said, but Nature's Prophet, even though that may be the case, still can play a style that's really difficult for CK to handle, which is just bouncing all around the map, split pushing. CK, as powerful as he is in these fights, doesn't really clear creeps really at all, so Nature's Prophet, if he needs to, can just resort to that. Unfortunately, hasn't really gone for the most powerful build in that regard. No mobility items, right-click damage-wise, with just a medallion into a solar crest. Again, it's kind of lackluster for that type of playstyle, but it is something that Mousesports will sometimes struggle to deal with. Only really Spirit Breaker punish that, but it looks like Mouz, they are ready to go back in. The Aegis on the Viper has since been reclaimed. Start shoving in this top tier 2. Any tower they can get is going to be absolutely huge to get some of these non-CK heroes on the team a little bit of extra dough.
Dara will get it with E, top lane. Bottom being pushed in slowly by the Rubik. The Kinguin just farming at this. Does seem like they're a little bit lost for how to progress in this one. Absolute massive spreading and farming, and they do have the potential for split push, as you mentioned. Prophet slouches in that manner.
Endurance run.
A little bit scared about going for these random pickoff plays. You don't know if the CK is right behind that target. If he is, he might just die. You don't know where the Spirit Breaker is coming from, who can charge in and reinforce, and as it clings, you might be able to deal with that, but so as these other heroes, the Spirit Breaker charging in can just stop that gang cold. So it's at this point in the game where as it clinks, you really don't want to be farming. You get a BKB, it's at 10 seconds. You want to be fighting. You want to be looking for these picks. But they're respecting the CK a lot, and that's giving him a lot of time to farm. Has that Heart of Tarrasque now up, and is going to go for even more illusions in that Manta style. I mean, again, the AoE is a problem here for Kinguin. It's going to be even worse in just a little bit. Skylar Gonna be taken down by Exotic Deer. Clinks so much damage, even through Shiva's guard. Kills off that Darkseer.
Dire's bottom tower is under attack.
Does have his BKB now, so can kind of try and go for these pickoffs with impunities. Feels pretty safe. There's nothing.
Dire's bottom tower has fallen.
Maybe a full team commitment with the Spirit Breaker being the. Oh, let's get a push in the bottom lane in the meantime. They'll get that tier 1 here, 25 minutes in. Threatening the tier 2 as well. Madara really not feeling threatened by God right now. As you mentioned, that influx of gold for the rest of his team who can't really leave side of the map. Ever the more forward to help. Thug right now, his build almost entirely focused on the CK with the Solar Crest, but he will pick up that halberd. We've been seeing that a lot.
There quite yet, but just getting a little bit more bulk, ensuring that he doesn't get insta-gibbed by the Clinks is very important to do as the Venomancer. And with this Solar Crest, evasion, health provided to him by the Sange, not to mention the armor from both the Lich and that Solar Crest. Bursting down and nailing a Venomancer first, like we saw earlier, shouldn't really be a possibility. Katsor, smoke doesn't help here.
Charge is going to be canceled. I guess Radiant playing a little bit blind, and they're going to kick themselves as they see heroes now revealing in the off lane profit. But either way, value necessarily lost. Skylark gets hit with a huge Wrath of Nature bounce. The last one there, but he's looking for maybe next time it's a hard kill without an Orchid. We'll bring in the profit now, and just in the nick of time. Get out. Do they have support? Try and make the kill. There's a blink on the roof. Use it. TP out. Charge cancel.
Mouz are actually getting more farm than Kinguin at this stage. It doesn't seem super likely up against a Maelstrom Viper. Now with the Hyperstone into Mjolnir and Nature's Prophet. The fact that Klink's still getting these snipes. I mean, even though Kinguin aren't really pushing the issue right now, it still seems like this game state of just sitting back getting gold not really working out too terribly for them. Mouz, they're getting some cash as well. They're getting some items. It does seem like these are the items that they kind of need, these survivability-based items. But oh, Madara runs into Katsur, can't quite nail him down. Rubik now with the blink and Force Staff. He'll scoot his way out of there.
It does feel like to some extent Kinguin have a better farm distribution, but it feels like they need to be ahead to kill off this CK who has such a good matchup on pace. No real true counters to him in the game, and you know, if he's the one sitting atop the net worth, I don't know how much it matters what his supporting cast has. You know, as long as the Darkseer can counter initiate for him, he's got the Shivas. They have a gem now as well to make sure that the initiations aren't super subpar or against them. For Kinguin, they're gonna look into the Roche pit now, and Madara hard enough to kill as is with an extra life. Very concerning for Kinguin, but they're already shoving in bottom lane. Patos, it looks like they're well aware, Kinguin, of what Mouz is. He does go for the full Mjolnir on Nisha, so a decent way to deal with these illusions going. Start to put in pressure into the 3, but the wave not quite nearby just yet, so backdoor still active, and now they're going to look to make a move. Dara, charge forward, is going to try and find the Rubik. Nice blink back. And a force from Nisha. They'll drop down the Death Ward. And it'll basically be Witch Doctor saying, please just kill me and let everyone else go. They'll do just that. They will gladly oblige Doctor there. But Aegis secured for Mouz. More importantly, no real damage of any content taken.
Aegis on the CK. These illusions, of course, do persist. MNT gonna get jumped by the Clinks. Couple of dodges, not enough. Will be sniped, and quite nice kill for the Clinks, to be sure. But this is like what CK Aegises do. I mean, you have all these illusions. If you somehow die with your main hero, you still have those illusions swinging in. So tanky. 4,000 HP. Without the armlet turned on, that's like 4,500 HP with cheese in the inventory to take that Aegis' spot once it is actually reclaimed or used or whatever. Katsur gonna run to Thug, and he out? That's a lot of damage, though, from that Venomancer at this point. Not really many damage items, but still, that right click. Skylark. That's not good, though. Losing the gem on top of his own life. Viper showing up huge. You shouldn't really be able to easily kill off the darts here as Viper, but works out.
A couple of lucky Mjolnir procs there, didn't actually catch it. But either way, the gem is a fairly big loss, and they look to get it back real quickly. MNT may be in trouble now, but he gets the halberd off, and they will get the nether strike. They have support coming in the form of Madara. Spartan is there with the chain frost, no longer cancels TPs. Will be able to make it out with gem in hand. So a big escape for the Kinguin side as they bring Skylark in that top lane. Will be able to try and grasp back some of the vision advantage. Thugs found some space though, as you mentioned. Did amount of damage, has that halberd up. Now has the cheese story as well. The Midas ticking away, level 19, having these couple of minutes of kind of stagnation in the game, and pretty much on par with the rest of the cores in game, just below safe laners.
Par for the cores. I know you totally meant to say that. That was smooth. But yeah, he's getting there. Now getting past the cheese as well, Thug, and oh, hello. That's a death ward that's now Agonend for the Witch Doctor.
Okay.
It's really powerful. Sometimes
If
I don't
you can
really know if
channel
he'll be able to
it, yes.
survive long enough for that. Like, he can't protect himself up against something like just an AoE vacuum or just getting crushed by a CK Reality Rift. But if he's able to find like a corner to hide in, then that bounce, that can do some serious work. Maybe clear out a couple of these mouse heroes.
Absolutely, or at least some CK illusions. It'd be nice to see him have a glimmer cape on top of it. But for now, just the Agonim's rush, they definitely have recognition of the shortcomings of their ability to opting for the Mjolnir and rushed Witch Doctor Agonim's. Still though, Madara, even his illusions, just starting off with that 4,500 base. We'll start to beat on the tier 3, and bottom lane, it looks like they're opting for the time being with Patos and Madara, though, he's going to pop up the Phantasm and say, you think you can push faster than me, huh? And now the Death Ward is there, actually. They get the nice telekinesis stun, but he's going to run away. Elisash will cancel it himself as he gets reality rifted in and brought down. Madara working on the buildings. Meanwhile, bot lane, they still haven't gotten through the tier 3 whilst losing their melee racks. Katsor will be able to make it back away as he blinks off to the east. And a Poison Nova flies out bottom lane. Will be able to kill off the Rubik in base. The Prophet and the Viper making it back, but still, Madara, he is undeterred here. Gonna Manta up, Reality Rift in onto Nisha, and even with the positive shine coming back from the Prophet, Nisha will drop here. Shane Frost flying through, gonna kill off these Treants. Madara, he's still got Aegis, daring them to kill him. Can't just disengage and let the heart actually regen him up here. He'll jump forward, he'll find Patos. They kill off the Lich in the meantime. The gem is on the deck. CK all left. Well, I say by his lonesome, but Skylark stalking nearby. Comes through with the Shiva's Guard. Does he get the slow on anyone? Yes, they'll pull back the Nature's Prophet, bring him down. He does have a buyback, 50 seconds on the sidelines. Will he expend it just yet? They get the halberd off onto the Clinks. One big swipe of the axe there from the CK. Cannot kill him off, though, and they get the telekinesis. They finally bring down the raid boss. Does cost them rather dearly, however. They use the Viper buyback. They lose the melee racks in the mid lane. And they're unable to get any significant damage done on the racks of the enemy. Thug now, though, he's going to be caught out. He'll get the Katsor kill, but likely will end up paying with his life. Has the cheese, actually, but that'll just delay the inevitable. Maybe it would have been better to hold on to it there. He will end up dropping down over by the Dire side shop. So, Madara seems to have more than enough time to respawn naturally here. Back to work with squad. Roche not up for a minimum.
That may have looked like the Madara show in the Dire base, but it was actually the MNT show elsewhere in the kind of Roche area. He was 1v1ing the Clinks, which, I mean, we saw earlier the Clinks clearly has enough power to kill whoever he wants, but Clinks wasn't involved in that defense at all because he had to deal with that Spirit Breaker. He had a TP, but he knew that he couldn't use it because the Spirit Breaker would just be able to cancel it every single time, so Exotic Deer had to try to just run out of there, and then the Spirit Breaker was chasing him, and he just couldn't get the kill, and he couldn't escape. So MNT tied up Exotic Deer in that previous fight for the entirety of that fight, at least letting the CK clean out the racks. So huge plays from the Spirit Breaker and that halberd that he has is going to get the team an advantage in that racks, but seems like the crackback for Kinguin not really going to do all that much. There's a tier 3 down in the bottom lane, so Shrines will be taken down, but Exotic Deer maybe pincered.
Yeah, they found the charge and the dust up onto Exotic Deer, and now they'll get the reality ref forward into the Chaos Bolt. A couple of right clicks from Madara will be an easy kill. No Roshan just yet for Mouz, but they'll at least look to force this buyback. Their waves are pushed out fairly nicely, though, in the mid and bottom lane for the Dire side. If they can just clear this up top, be okay, but unable to do so. The Nature's Prophet did cut the rest of the creeps, but Mouz able to protect up their wave for now, and that'll...
Prophet shoving bottom with Treants. Stark throwing in some right clicks. Just a single lucky bounce for a Viper with that Chain Lightning to cancel that heart regen, and that's important.
Charge flying through. Nice vacuum wall. He's going to be open from Skylark to get the Poison Nova off onto El Lissash and Exotic Deer, who pops up his BKB. Meanwhile, Madara on the north side is able to bring down the Viper. That's a dieback. Madara going to look to disengage here. He'll Manta up, let the heart regen. Do some work. Maybe next time, again, just bodying up the enemy lineup here in the front lines. And now Madara going to join the fray. Reality Rift onto the Witch Doctor. Chaos Bolt will hit the Rubik. He gets forced back, however, by his Nature's Prophet. And in the meantime, Tier 3 has backdoor protection, but will end up falling. Ailerox are backdoor protected, excuse me, now, and Madara, for that reason, disengage and reset. They'll wait for the wave, which joins now. Back to work. Prophet down to the bottom lane, and it feels like maybe his only option at this hasn't joined him yet, though. Exotic Deer just a little bit out of position, if anything, as he will let Madara beat on racks. It's going to be hard for him to engage regardless, but he's going to look to flank the back line. Madara lifted up. True follow-up, and now they're going to get the charge for it, and the reality rifts almost simultaneous on the Rubik. Exotic Deer, his services would be better utilized bottom lane with his Prophet, who's actually pushed down the full range racks and almost got in the melee here. He gets vacuumed in, though. Reality Rift is there. The illusions, the glyph, double kill for Madara. They'll get the melee racks top lane. They'll salvage theirs bottom for the time being. And Exotic Deer hanging around top, thinking, you know, they had the potential to defend rather than joining his Prophet bottom, and really doesn't get much done.
The Rubik can only do so much AoE-wise. Clearing out the creep wave with the Plague Ward is certainly very nice, but once you get pulled in by the CK, it's just all over. The way that they defended that was just try to chip out the CK, use his armlet kind of against him there, because the Plague Wards will continuously attack that heart. Can't get the regen with that up, but it just takes so long to actually weaken that hero, especially when most of the Kinguin heroes are just dead or elsewhere. They lose 1.5 sets of racks in total, and I mean that's bad first of all, but the fact that they've like barely been able to scrape together a fight is even worse. How do they actually fight over these buildings up against the CK? Now he has the True Strike from the MKB, so these Solar Crests, this Butterfly on the Viper, they will not be doing all that much. It is not going to help his illusions, really, but you really need more power in these illusions. Madara is an absolute monster at this stage, and you can see that power this team is kind of rallying around, and the Venomancer, the Darkseer, they're getting a decent amount of net worth there as well. It's kind of the Alchemist effect, except with this CK, just being so far ahead, the team can survive and let Madara kind of do everything for a little while they just farm up and get a handful of kills. So it's working out pretty darn well for Mouz, all of a sudden with a huge net worth lead. There's such a period of even game. Kinguin, they have a Mjolnir on the Viper, but what they really need is to just initiate well onto someone from Mouz, kill them off in a hurry. I'm not really sure if that's in the cards right now, because Mouz are going to be 5-manning all day long.
Yeah, they take out the Roche. They've got 2 lanes in the top and mid, naturally pushing in because of racks as they've taken there, and now they'll just deal with bottom lane, push straight up it as a unit, look to end this one out. Shrine's taken out, so no real ability for a flank here for the Kinguin side, and just time before side of the backpack the Echo Saber for now, and Aura, killing him off once. Tall enough order to kill and killing him. Nigh impossible. He'll pop up the mana, push in the mid wave. He is by himself, and the Dire are aware, but still initiating on him feels like the wrong method to fight here for Kinguin. Still waiting on their MNT Spirit Breaker, but it looks like a bit early. Thug holding onto the cheek, has a Blink Dagger, so we may actually see an effective Poison Nova, level 3 at this point. Of course, incoming fight. They jump forward, find Misha. They will Chaos Bolt him up, and now they'll start off the channeling. It's actually doing a lot of work for the Witch Doctor here, but a huge Poison Nova coming out, and the Clinks, I mean, he's throwing in some good physical damage. May get off Skylark, but he's the only one left standing. Halberded up, brought down with the detection. A couple swipes of the axe from the CK, and GG is called as Mouz with the trump card CK 5th pick, able to take this game. This series, excuse me, game 3.
You don't really see many charges land on more than one hero. That was actually a charge that landed on everyone because of that Dark Seer.